Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar, 3 really important people strategies to grow your business with Cindy Kaczmarek. My name is Ellie Raber. I'm with businessadvising.org. Just want to let everybody know that we are recording today, and thank you very much for taking time out of your busy day to join us. Everyone is muted for now. That's just so we don't hear any background noise and things like that. If you have any questions during Cindy's presentation, there is a Q&A feature on your screen. Go ahead, ask a question. Cindy's nice enough to stay after her presentation and answer all the questions that we have today. So a little bit about who we are before we get rolling. Businessadvising.org is a program of the nonprofit Pacific Community Ventures. We are a small business accelerator that matches business owners with expert advisors just like Cindy to help you grow your business. We also have a loan program for businesses lending $10,000 to $200,000. So if you're interested in getting a mentor, advisor, or a loan, let us know. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our speaker today, Cindy. Cindy Kaczmarek is an experienced advisor on people issues to business owners and corporate executives. Cindy is a certified professional coach specializing in helping companies tackle their biggest people issues. She is sought out by business owners and corporate executives to assist them in leveraging their people to build their businesses. Cindy is especially recognized for her ability to quickly get the human resources stuff out of the way so you can inspire people to deliver results. We're proud to have Cindy as one of our all-star advisors here at businessadvising.org. And without further ado, Cindy, I'm going to pass everything over to you.
Okay. I'm just going to do a little test to make sure I'm recording. And thank Ellie for that great introduction. Okay, I'm recording. Great. Thank you so much. And I appreciate that you've all taken the time out of your very busy schedules to hop on this webinar. And hopefully you're going to get some useful information that you can take back and apply as soon as you leave this webinar. I've packed a fair bit into it in the hopes to give you just a broad overview of some of the important people strategies. And hopefully you can take this away, take pieces that are most relevant to you or most interested to you at this point in time and bring those back into your business. And of course, if you do have questions at the end, don't hesitate to ask them because questions are great. So what I'd like to do with this is start out by engaging you in the process. And I really am curious about a couple of questions. And I have some hunches on the answers, but I really want to get your perspective. And so I've crafted 3 questions. And the 3 questions, I'm not able to, sorry, 1 second here. Okay, great. 3 questions. There is no right or wrong answer here. There is just simply your perspective, and that's what I'm looking for. And throughout the webinar today, what I'd like to do is refer back to these in some ways and link them. So the first question is, based upon your own experiences, how much is a great employee worth over that of an average employee? So your choices are 1.5 times more than an average, 2 times more, 5 times more, or 10 times more. Second question is, reflecting on your career and time as a leader, what do you think the percentage of your employees that were great? Okay, pretty good, you know, they're okay, or not that good and really didn't work out. And the third question is, would you agree generally that you waited too long to cut your poor performers? And it's just simply a yes or no answer. So I'll turn it back over to Ellie and we'll get the poll going now and you can input your answers. I think I got to give it back to you.
Yes, thank you, Cindy. Yes, so the poll is now live on the screen. So go ahead and answer your questions and Cindy will read off the response as soon as we get a sufficient amount of responses on the survey.
Sorry, Ellie, I'm just trying to get that red dot back up again so I know that I'm recording. Okay, thank you. We'll go back. Great. Okay, so polling coming in for the first question. Based upon your own experiences, I'd say the better part of the group, so 50% is residing in the 5 times more and 50% of the group is residing in the 10 times more. It's interesting. I didn't know where this one was going to land. Kind of knew it was going to be 2 times more or greater, but I'm really intrigued to see that it's 5 to 10 times more. So all of you on the call are saying great employees are worth far more than your average employees. And that's important. That's an important concept to know throughout this. The second polling question, it's looking like 70% of you are saying they were not that good and didn't work out. Ellie, is that right? Are we getting a not that good and didn't work out? So on your career as a leader, you're picking people that didn't work out. So hopefully today, that's what's going to help you do is pick people that are great and maybe better than the last time that you did your hiring. And as I suspected, vast majority of people will always say that they waited too long to cut their poor performers. And that's my experience talking to CEOs of large corporations, senior leaders of large and small companies, my own experience. Generally, we all wait a bit too long to cut our poor performers. And there's a lot of reasons for that and a lot of things that we may or may not have done along the way. So I'm going to exit the poll and we'll move on to the presentation. Okay, so what I wanted to start with is this whole concept of good and great. And being in business today and being just simply good is not good enough. And there's a whole lot of reasons for that actually. In the business landscape right now, and it has been for some time, it's highly competitive. There's lots of people out there. There's lots of people with good ideas and good concepts and lots of people with frankly, pretty good businesses. So to be just simply good and to rest on good isn't going to make you very successful. It might make you be around for a little bit, but not necessarily for the length of time and the degree of success that you really want. And what people often try to do, and this is, I've seen this so many places, is the tendency to say yes or think that you have to be really good at absolutely everything that you do. And the reality is nobody can be good at everything. And you have to pick your spots and you have to really figure out what you need to be really good at in order to cut the noise down and establish some focus, because being great requires a set of focus. In terms of elevating performance, it requires more than just being capable currently, and that's all capabilities. So that's the capability of your company and the capability of your people. So if you're going to elevate the performance of your company and your people, you really have to be conscious of and consciously guiding that lifting of performance and going beyond that, what you're currently pretty good at maybe. So if you don't already know what you're good at, spending the time doing the reflection and figuring out what you're great at is going to help you become even more competitive. That's why a company that knows consistently what it does well will best exceed. And if you talked earlier in the last slide about this whole notion of focus, and I like to use the words of developing laser focus, and laser focus on great. And so that's developing this notion of what do we need to be really good at? What do we need to be not so good at, quite frankly, things that we can let stand aside so that we can focus on that great component. The other thing is, when you hire people into your company, it's a huge commitment of your resources. It's a huge commitment of your time, of your focus and your energy, and a huge commitment of your money, quite frankly. So why not focus on great? If you're only going to focus on good enough, your time, focus, and dollars, I don't know, that's the best use of your investment. So let's get to the next one. So HR can often be seen as a great big mystery. And it's a mystery for I don't know, lots of reasons. Some people think it's a little too complex. It's a lot of lingo, a lot of language. And what I would like to do is share with you this picture. And what it is, it's called the talent life cycle. And it's something that you can take away and use. And if you know a little bit about what's in the life cycle, it'll help you start to build your company or continue to evolve your current company. But you have to know a little bit about these elements in order to manage the talent that you have, because it's the people and the great people that are going to help you exceed in your business. So the boxes are recruitment, selection, performance and development, succession and transition. I'm going to focus on some of the boxes more than others, and I'm going to spend less time on transition because that's a different topic, but I wanted you to have a full picture of it. And I've deliberately created it as a circle because they're all interrelated and it tends to be circular. So you will pop in and out of these stages, and then at some point, sometimes you'll have more of an emphasis in one over the other. Okay, the first one, recruiting. Planning, making sure that you have a plan and taking the time to build a plan is absolutely critical. And this doesn't have to be huge. It just needs to be something. You need to have spent the time thinking about, what's my strategy? Where am I going to source people from? And social media is absolutely critical to your relevancy in your business and to sourcing good people. So you need to figure out what are those channels that I'm going to be on, and what do I need to look like out on those in those spaces. Most people tend to be hunters versus gatherers. I need something, I'm in a crisis, I'm going to go out and find it. What I am suggesting you do is switch that mindset to that of a gatherer. And that's a constant state of mind. So that's, you're talking to people, you're talking to friends, you're paying attention to people's interests and talents, because maybe at some point that might be a person you might want to bring into the fold and have come and work for your company. Or at least have that conversation about, do they know anybody who might be interested in the type of work that you have available? So switching from hunter to gatherer is a good place to go. You talk lots about why your company is a great place to work. You do this as you're in your gatherer mode, but when you're recruiting as well, this is a great opportunity to really highlight what your company is really good at and why it's a great place to be. Because hopping over and maybe somebody considering a career or a term in a small business takes some risk, but there's great benefits to that. So talk about what those benefits are and why it's a great place to be. If you have employees currently, engage them in the process. Your employees can be your best ambassador, and they can be really helpful, and they can see some things that you might not see in the process as well. And they might be able to give you some really good feedback on what brought them into your workplace and what they like about it. And that's a really great piece of information to have. It's a really good attraction piece for new and potential employees as well. And then finally, what's absolutely critical is spending this time on building a really compelling job description. If you don't have a good job description, you don't have a good place to start with your employee once you come on board. You're making it up as you go. And if you develop a compelling one, something that you can use as something you can go back to and measure and set up as something that where you might have some goals within that job description, this is going to be a great starting point for you. And it's a good reference point at some time. Once, hey, maybe 6 months down the road, you're having a conversation of, was this what you expected it would be? You can then review that job description. So this all comes back to having a plan, having some focus, and really thinking about what you want to present and what's the role that you need. So hopping into the next box, you've thought about what you need. You've thought about how you're going to be viewed out there and where you're going to go and how you're going to gather those people. And now you need to select. And I'm coming back to the planning concept again. So I really want you to consider how you're going to plan the interviews. There is, I think, maybe sometimes a feeling that people feel that they need to do full interviews with candidates. And what I'm suggesting is that's not the case. You want to do full interviews with people that you shortlist, but you also want to do some pre-screening. And there are some tools out there that you can use to do that. And actually what's interesting is there's a product, one of the people that I currently coach through business advising just started using the platform called Indeed. And Indeed allows you to create a set of 4 pre-screening questions, and the candidates that come through that apply, if they take that step to enter into the pre-screening, you can hear their pre-recorded answers to the questions that you said are important that you want to hear first. So that gives you a really good sense of the person, what they're really interested in. Are they really picking your job, or are they just picking any job that they came across? So spending some time in pre-screening is a good idea. Then you want to make sure that you have your questions prepared. And I've got a few questions that I'm going to give you next that I'd like you to consider asking in each interview that you do for those people that you're really considering bringing on board. The next one is preparing yourself. And this is really taking the time to say, do I have the time on my calendar? Do I have the time to take away from the business right now so I can make this my focus? I can make this my focus to develop the plan, start screening people, conducting the interviews, making time for people in the interviews, making time for follow-up, and then making my decision in a timely manner. I've got something on the screen which you may be wondering what that means, the LT ratio. And this is really about the percentage of time that you want to spend listening versus talking. And I think this is absolutely critical. And I don't know, I think of, geez, maybe going to some social events or networking events and coming back sometimes and thinking, wow, I spent a lot of time listening. And some of the people that I talked to or I spent time with didn't ask me one question. They spent the whole time talking and I spent the whole time listening, and I didn't learn, I don't know that they learned anything about me in the meantime. So think about this ratio and think about how much you want to be listening in your interviews and how much you want to be talking. If you're mindful of it, you're going to achieve what you set out to do. Involving your team, talked about that earlier. And I think this is really important. Your team can be involved in some of the interviews. Get them involved in some of your final candidates. Again, they can give you some different perspectives, and they can also ask some questions, and it's an opportunity for potential candidates to ask them questions about your workplace. So getting them involved early is a great idea. And it also creates a good connection to the person that you eventually do choose. And then finally, designing your interview settings. Don't hesitate to do things a little less conventionally. For your final candidates, take them out to a breakfast, a lunch, a dinner, something that is a little more informal, maybe a little more communal. Take your team with you. See how they interact on a more casual basis. Make sure that your settings are free from unnecessary distractions. So if you're doing them over a medium like this, like Skype or FaceTime, make sure you've got other distractions in your setting turned off so that it's not interfering in things. What I thought I'd do is, actually, this brings to mind, I thought I'd share with you a little story. Several years ago, I was working as a consultant, and I got a call from this guy that we'll call Howard. And Howard his house was on fire. He had a successful business. He needed some help now. He had some orders that he anticipated were coming through, and he needed people on the team as soon as possible. So I cleared my calendar, went out and met with Howard, and got to the place, found it, managed to come inside and find Howard. But finding Howard wasn't easy. I had to go through a few people to find him, even though we had a preset time to meet. So I found him, he sat down with me, and within a few minutes of talking, Howard left. I thought, oh, there you go. I'll be right back. So he left and came back, and I thought, okay, this is interesting. And this happened not once, but several times during our meeting. And while that time was going on as well, I was trying to focus Howard on what did he need and what was most important, and tell me about the skills and tell me about the business. And I was asking a whole lot of questions, and he was bouncing all over the place. At some point, I just wanted to reach over and grab his hand and say, Howard, how on earth am I supposed to help you if you can't sit still and if you can't talk to me and you can't focus on what you need? I don't even know how somebody would stay working with you if you're going to be behaving like this. But I didn't. And I just said, okay, and did the best I could and gathered what I thought was important and ended up creating a bit of a job description from him. He took it, never heard from him. And I really don't even know what happened with that. So I don't know if he hired somebody great or if he hired at all or what on earth resulted this from that. But I can't imagine being the candidate on the other end of that if I was somebody that was interviewing with them. It certainly wouldn't make me want to join the organization. So here's the 3 questions that I'd like you to consider asking. And these 3 questions you would ask for each role that the person's had on their resume. So for each role, you're going to ask, tell me about how you found out about that job. Tell me what you liked about the job before you started it. And then tell me about why you left. And for each of these questions, I'd ask you to take a tone of non-judgment. What you're trying to do with these questions is really to understand all of these points, how they found the job, what they liked about it, why they left, and you want to hear their story. And people will tell you the story if they feel comfortable. And I think that's really, really important to kind of keep some of the judgment down and really just listen. Go back to this ratio of listening versus talking. And you're going to see some things string together as you ask these questions and take some notes and hear about their different job situations. You're also going to hear some things like passion come out in this, especially when they get to what they really liked about the job. So take these down, and in addition to the other questions you're going to ask them, these would be the ones I'd say make sure you do. Next, the attracting and retaining your talent. Like the story about Howard, to be viewed as reputable and successful, you need to convey this in every action that you do. So think about how you're showing up all the time, how you're showing up when you interview people, when you're out in the community, when you're conducting your business. You want to be viewed as successful and reputable, and that's what's going to draw people to your organization. They'll hear about it from others, or they'll hear you and see you and say, might be something to this. Paint a picture of how you interact with your employees. How do you do that? How do you lead? What kind of leader are you in your company? What are some of the skills that this person or your people currently have that contribute to the success of your company? And what are some of the skills that you're seeing in the person that you're interviewing that could contribute to the success of your company? Because that's what you're looking for ultimately, is for somebody to contribute to the success and help you to propel the business forward. Make sure you ask what motivates the individual. It's okay. Ask them what motivates them to get up in the morning besides their alarm clock. And ask them what causes them to bring their A game to work, and ask this often. So not just when you're hiring somebody, but when you've got them in the workplace, because that changes over time. And it's a good way of continuing to build engagement and continuing to understand the motivations of each and every person that's working for you. The beauty of being a small company is you can have these conversations. You're not managing hundreds of people. So in being able to get down to this level of conversation is going to help you retain people too. Lastly, hire for potential and develop the potential. So don't hire for what they said they did in their last role solely. Make sure you hire for the potential of what they can do more of and do potentially in the future. And once you've got them in your organization or your company, make sure you develop that potential. Have them participate in that potential development as well. So one of the things that people often ask in small companies is, I can't pay as much as the big companies. Their salaries are stratospheric. I can't do it. I also don't have the fancy cafeterias on site. I can't afford to pay for nonstop food all day. Living in the Bay Area, we've got a lot of that, where people think that, geez, I've got to offer an entire suite of things that I don't know how I'd ever afford in order to be able to attract great. And my answer is, you don't need to do all those things. You need to do some things that are relevant to your business, the things that you can afford, and the things that make sense to you and the employees that you have. So there are some things that are tangible, meaning you can touch and see and feel them, and some things that are intangible, things that are just more meaningful and purpose related that you can't necessarily put your arms around. So here's a few. Onboarding. Consider doing onboarding that's purposeful. Don't have somebody come in and sit down and read something for a few hours. Make sure that people are active once you get them in there that first day. Make sure you're there the first day. I've actually met people that have gone on vacation the first week that somebody new started. So make sure that you're not doing that you're there, it's purposeful, that you're engaging your current team if you have a team, or that you're thinking of what's going to be meaningful to get this person off and running and started right away. And you want their output as soon as possible. Excuse me. Consider creating some rewards for good employee referrals. Your people, as I said earlier, can be your best ambassador. And if they refer to you, a good employee that you end up hiring, consider giving them some sort of reward for that. It doesn't have to be big. Gosh, it could be a Pete's gift card. It could be a lunch with the team. It could be cash. I'm very sorry about that. I don't know how to stop this. Okay, my apologies. Give people praise when it's earned and don't be shy about it. I still have cards from employees that either they gave a card to me or I gave a card to them, and that's years ago. So they can be really simple, and it can be something that is as simple as a card, it can be simple as a note, or it can be simple as just a, hey, this is what you did well, and this is what I really appreciate it. And don't be shy about it. Don't hesitate to do it regularly. Role clarity is probably one of the most important things to do if you want to have people perform and hold them accountable. Your performance reviews, these can be short and simple. My recommendation is make it one page and have them regularly. Some people do them annually. That's a very at least thing you need to do is make them annual. I would recommend that you do them even more often than that. Think about doing it biannually. Think about doing it quarterly. Make them short, make them conversational, and provide ongoing feedback along the way. Consider some things like flexible work days or work weeks. If you have that ability within your business to do that, and that can be something that's valued by employees. But really consider how you do that, how you use it across your employee base, and make sure it works for you as a business as well. Predictable work schedules. This is something that actually was in the Chronicle a few weeks ago. A number of employers are being pushed to do. Makes sense for families, makes sense for employees when they can predict when they're going to work. So don't create an environment where somebody's expected to be on call-in all the time, or where they maybe come in for a shift and they're not going to be working for more than 3 hours. People have made plans to be in the workplace, and so your piece can be providing some predictability to that. You do that, that's going to create great benefit for them. And it might even differentiate you amongst others. Positive and friendly work environment. People that feel like it's a great place to come, where it's positive, where people treat each other respectfully, where it's friendly, tend to say it's a great place to be and tend to enjoy coming in. So see what you can do to enhance that even further if that's something you currently have. And if it's not as friendly as you'd like it to be, think about how you do that. Do you have some funds for training and development? And that means, can you pay for some training? Can you pay for some development of your people? Development can be things even like getting some mentoring. Maybe you have an employee that's been with you a long time and has a great deal of knowledge and skills, and that person can be a fabulous mentor to some of your newer people. So training and development doesn't always have to be paid for, but giving some and developing people in some ways is going to be a great reward for your folks. Performance. As I said earlier, the clarity of role expectations is critical to high performance. If people don't know what they need to do, and if they don't know what's important, they're not going to perform as well as you need them to be. And there's always going to be this gap between their performance, their understanding, and you. So being as clear as possible with your folks is going to net you fabulous outcomes. I can't say this enough, but it is your role to help employees prioritize your work responsibilities. If they don't know what's important to you and they don't know what's really critically important to the business, they're going to guess, and they may guess wrong, and this may frustrate you, but you know what's most important and you know what needs most prioritization, so don't hesitate to do that. Those of you that have younger employees working for you, there's a study that I recently read that said about 54% of your millennials or young employees would prefer that you help them prioritize their work. They really want that feedback. They really want to know, whereas 71% of the older generation, maybe like me, value that. We want to know what's important to you, and we want to make sure that we're focusing on that. So either way that you look at it, people value this, is I guess what that study is saying. You can also hold people accountable performance, and in doing so, you're going to increase the engagement, meaning my attachment to the workplace and how I feel about it, and the excitement that I might have, and the results of the business. So accountability equals engagement and results. In performance, focus on what matters most. Don't sweat the small stuff. If you're sweating the small stuff, chances are you're not focusing on what's most important to you. So spend the time, the precious time that you have, focusing on what's most important. Now, you could choose to absolutely ignore employee performance, and it's at your own peril. So it's risky to choose to ignore it and hope that people get it, hope that people understand what's important to you, what's priority, what the performance really is. But if you do this, it's kind of like a head in the sand moment. You're not going to get the performance that you need. So some of the tips to enhance the performance of your employees. Have conversations. These conversations are going to build the alignment, it's going to build the motivation, and it's going to build the engagement. And I've used some of those words a fair bit earlier, and these conversations, I can't emphasize enough that they're going to be beneficial for you. Goal setting. Establish goals. Make sure people understand the goals. Make sure that they're attainable. People value the goal setting and having frequent conversations and feedback on how they're doing against those goals. It's also going to help you establish some of your measurements and your benchmarks as you go along to moving towards great. Build on what's positive and describe the impact to your customers. Sometimes I think we want to spend time focusing on what people need to do for opportunity development or enhancement for opportunities. And I'm suggesting you turn that ratio around and make it so that you're focusing on what's positive with people, and positive relative to what's important to your business, and describe those things that they do that's really good and how it impacts your customers positively. You're going to create a great picture for them. Be firm and be fair. It's okay to be firm and being firm can still be kind, and be fair in how you dish out your feedback and your fairness. Or, sorry, rather, how you're being firm. Development and succession, I've put these two together for you. There's something I've used earlier when I've said focus on the positives with your individuals. Here's where I'm suggesting that you focus on discovering what your employees' strengths are, the things that they do consistently well. So strengths aren't something that appears occasionally or fleetingly. The strengths are things that you see repeatedly and consistently. Look for these, search for these, find them, and describe them. Describe what you see, and encourage your employees to describe what they see in others. And then focus your development efforts on these strengths. If you focus on the strengths, you're gonna get better results. And what we focus on, we generally move towards. So get people looking at their strengths and using their strengths in your business. Talk to them about what matters most to their own growth. People have ideas for how they want to grow. They have ideas for how they want to appear and what they want to achieve in the short term and the long term. Sometimes people don't do a lot of thinking about it, but having the conversation starts that process and also tells them that that matters to you. So find out about this. Create the opportunities for employees to collaborate. Maybe it's how your space is set up. Make sure that there's an opportunity to have those collaborative conversations. Maybe there's opportunities for people to work on projects together. I don't know. There's things you can do to build that sense of collaboration. Employees that can collaborate a bit more tend to contribute more to your company as well. I mentioned this early about coaching and mentoring, but I really think it's a boost to all people. So mentoring is that using that wise, sage skill set you have in your organization, somebody who's a big expert, and they can be a mentor to somebody who's less experienced. And coaching is the ability to help somebody build even better performance in their current space. And everyone can be somewhat of a coach for someone else. So, in summary, define what you're great at as an employer, and define what you're great at as a company to get your great employees. If you know what you're great at, it's going to help you really zero in on finding great employees. Your great employees are worth more than average employees. You all said, 100% of you said they're worth 5 to 10 times more than your average employees. So go out, seek them, and keep them. Share your vision any chance you get. This is going to help you shape it, refine it, and draw more people into your organization or company and help you be more successful as well. One of the questions, the second question I talked about earlier about your time as a leader, say this was the percentage of your employees that were great, the percentage that would be okay, and a percentage that won't work out. In my experience in coaching executives, what they would reflect on and have told me consistently for a number of years is about a third of them will be great, a third will be okay, and a third aren't going to work out. And welcome to being human. So if you've had this type of experience where a third of people that you've hired over time haven't worked out, it's not something that you need to beat yourself up on. Figure out what you did that maybe contributed to that and how you might do it differently. But I kind of think the 1/3, 1/3, 1/3 rule isn't a bad thing to have in your head. Good talent management methods. So think of that picture that I had earlier that identifies some of the key buckets for that. So having some good talent management methods in those areas are going to generate you better business results. And finally, lead in your words and in your actions. What people see and what they hear needs to match. So make sure you're always leading because you are always visible to your employees. So I said I would give you 3 really important people strategies, and hopefully you've seen that this is what they are as we've talked about it today. So laser focus on great. Actively shape your workplace to lead the way to your vision and what matters. Don't let it happen. Make sure you're actively shaping that. And develop talent management methods. You don't have to have a lot of them, but you need to have a mindset of them and have some of them. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ellie, and we'll go into Q&As, and we'll take some of your questions. Okay, Ellie.
Okay, Cindy, thank you. That was fantastic. I think we all learned a lot from it. So folks on the webinar, please put your questions into the Q&A box, and I'll read those off to Cindy. I see a few of them came in while she was talking, so I'll start with those. A question comes in about new businesses and transparency. So how to be transparent with employees, but also not show too many vulnerabilities about my relatively new business.
Okay. That's a great question. I think transparency, used an interesting word. Transparency is really important. And to me, it's akin to honesty. So while we're never 100% honest with people, we're honest to a degree. So if you ask me, hey, how does something look for me today? Chances are you're not going to be 100% honest with me, but you'll say, yeah, fine. Same thing. Take this over to your business and your business results. Share with people how your business is doing, and share with them at a high level, because what you want to be doing is building some good business skills for your people. They don't need to know all your numbers. They don't need to know your margins. They don't need to know your revenue numbers necessarily. They might know some because they might be in the sales portion of your business, but weave the picture together and create the big picture for people. If you're creating the big picture, it helps them to understand how they can contribute to that. So that's on the transparency on the business side, but then there's transparency on the personal side. You're a small business. You are going to see more of each other potentially, and there may be a little bit more of a friendly nature to how things feel and look in the workplace, and that's okay. And share some things about yourself, but know that you don't have to share everything. So people don't have to know exactly what you did last weekend. Maybe you want to share something of what you did, but there are things that you can do to be transparent that still create a healthy set of boundaries and model what you'd like your employees to be relating to one another in a manner that way as well.
Fantastic. I see another question came in, and it's about, since it is my responsibility to help my employees prioritize, what are some best practices or tools that can help me?
Okay. At the risk of sounding a little old school, I'm going to say that pen and paper is still pretty good. In fact, there was something in the Wall Street Journal that I just recently read, and it was this big article on the notion that there are so many apps out there right now that we're all screwing around trying to put information into our apps that we're not using in a way that gives us help with the prioritization or help with knowing where our tasks are. We're chasing the apps and we're chasing the information. So I say go to pen and paper or pencil and paper, whatever that is. Put Post-its up on the wall. Have a big whiteboard in your office. Create a set of priorities that might be a little bit more longer term by having them on the whiteboard where people can refer to them. But don't hesitate to be simple about it. I think that is one way to be able to stay on top of it. The more elaborate you make it, the less likely you are going to follow it. And ask your employees what will help them.
Fantastic. And let's see, this will make this our last question, which is, and you spoke about this a little bit in terms of the benefits and paying competitive salaries and things like that. But if I can't afford expensive benefits like vision, dental, 401k matching, what alternative benefits can I offer my employees?
Okay. Well, there's that slide earlier where I talked about the tangible and intangible. So some of those things that are meaningful to your employees, you can be creative. You can come up with a list of your own. I think things like spot bonuses, maybe there's something that your folks worked really hard on to meet a deadline that was really difficult to meet, and maybe it's taking them out for lunch or a dinner or maybe a gift card of some sort. And it doesn't have to be huge. It just has to be somehow tied to the results and tied to what you want to continue to reward. Maybe it's meaningful experiences. Maybe it's taking the team out to do something together. Maybe it's you're heading out. If your business has some focus on food, people wanting to go to a cooking class, maybe that's a good group activity to do together that you wouldn't normally do otherwise. Maybe it's allowing people to do some volunteer time. People, especially the younger generation, the millennials, really want to contribute to something that's meaningful. And so maybe it's you giving some time out on a monthly basis for people to do one of their favorite volunteer pieces of work, and you decide what hours that could represent, that you could really spare someone. But maybe that's also how you recognize people, is recognizing them as a whole.
Excellent. Thank you, Cindy, for spending the time and sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. And thank you, everyone on the webinar, for taking time out of your day. Hopefully, you learned something and can apply this to your business. I know I have. If you would like to work with Cindy or somebody like Cindy on your business, please reach out to us at businessadvising.org. And Cindy, thank you very much. And everyone have a fantastic day.
Thank you.